The Russians are grinding down Pokrovsk. A rain of bombs is covering the city. It is holding on with its last strength. The armed forces of Ukraine have clenched their fists and are not moving an inch from their positions. Russian assaults have been thwarted. Ukrainian defenders are grinding down enemy motorcycles and buggies, and the infantry is being obliterated. Why are the occupiers so fixated on Pokrovsk and, despite the powerful blows from the armed forces of Ukraine, refuse to abandon their audacious ideas? More on this in just a moment.
His hands are gripping the steering wheel tightly. His gaze is intensely focused on the road, yet he proudly glances up at the sky, at least ahead of the armored vehicle. An electronic warfare station discreetly covers the vehicle like a dome, but on the way to Pokrovsk, even it, as the view outside the window shows, guarantees absolutely nothing. All routes to Pokrovsk are currently round-the-clock targets for enemy drones and long-range artillery. Pokrovsk itself is being continuously shelled both day and night by the Russians with anything that can reach the city, explode, destroy, and kill. Every day something falls on our heads.
Oh, we almost died.
We still live in such an area where things fly.
God forbid. I scream.
Viktor and Irina have lived in Avdiivka for 35 years of married life. They found out they didn't leave the city until the last moment, but eventually when dozens of Moscow cabs started falling on Avdiivka, Zabul, was they evacuated to Pokrovsk. Now, they are experiencing the same thing all over again.
We are from Avdiivka ourselves.
We delivered medical supplies to Avdiivka until the last moment. There was one doctor and 4 nurses. I'm saying this for sure, until they had already left.
Do you at least have a basement?
There is a basement, but it's bad. I shout, and then I pray.
Prayers are probably a useful thing, but against the Russian bombs and shells the surrounding reality shows, they are not very helpful.
In Pokrovsk, they are simply wiping it off the face of the earth. Cabs, well, I haven't personally counted, but 15 to 20 a day. That's consistent. Artillery is working. Multiple rocket launch systems, drones are flying, both on fiber optics and regular FPVs, meaning the hunt for locals and the military here is at a very high level.
And the people from whom the Muscovites are shelling Pokrovsk and the residents of the 25th Airborne Brigade are a direct consequence of the operational situation at the front line. For more than half a year, the Russians have been unable to break through to the city from the south. Attempts at flanking strikes are also yielding no results. Most of the equipment that the enemy uses for assaults is destroyed by Ukrainian soldiers, even before reaching the deployment lines for combat formations.
Since the beginning of the defense of Lysivka, we have knocked out a lot of equipment. A lot of burned out equipment is standing. This includes BTR-82s and BMP-3s. We stopped the enemy that was trying to push through there. As a result, the enemy is now pulling up reserves, because they lack the, let's say, the offensive potential, the combat potential for future offensive actions.
It also had a grill, but that didn't save it.
It didn't save it.
Instead of armored vehicles, the Muscovite commanders are now sending their infantry from the south to storm Pokrovsk on motorcycles and buggies, but most often just on foot.
The main combat actions are currently ongoing in the direction of MTLS. You can observe the ruins that remain at this time, but we are holding our positions, providing defense to prevent the enemy from advancing further. We observe the enemy here, and one occupier is currently being targeted with fire from a 120mm mortar.
Well, the movement forward is already non-existent, so fire is being applied to prevent this.
Yes, plus Toyota. We are observing.
This morning, another group of enemy attack aircraft went on the offensive right across the field. This morning?
Yes. Now, almost every day there are assault actions. The enemy uses small groups on motorcycles, 3 to 4 motorcycles with 2 infantrymen in each crew.
It would be hard to believe that the Russian assault troops could advance in broad daylight across the field if another group of enemy walkers hadn't come into the view of the 25th Airborne's reconnaissance drone at noon.
Well, that's their tactic.
Across the field,
Well, in the field, I mean the lawn. The imagination of the Russians.
they try, the strike drone pilots of the Sich Airborne, not to miss any potential hiding spots where groups of enemy assault troops might be lurking. Ours can work in cover. Yes, I consider 3. Yes, drive them out, no need. I see we have a connection. Yes, yes. They make sure that not even a single Moscow infantryman is left unnoticed by the drone operators of the 25th. Instead, the occupiers direct most of their artillery fire, airstrikes and drones specifically at Pokrovsk, targeting the local residential areas and the communication routes to the city. Literally before the new year, life was still bustling here in Pokrovsk. It's not that it was safe here, but people were reluctant to leave the city. Now on the 5th of the 25th year, it's complete devastation here. Yet, amidst all this horror, about 2,000 people still remain. Are there people or few?
Many. They say 2,000. But how did they count that? More, definitely more.
Despite the heavy enemy fire, the possibility to evacuate from Pokrovsk still exists. But the chances of safely leaving the city are decreasing literally by the hour. From Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region, Alexander Motorny, Alexander Shuyan, and Serhiy Shportilo. TSN 1+1 Marathon.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
United News.
Our forces powerfully dismantled the Russians in the Kursk region. What a strike! Everything was burning completely. Ammunition was being loaded one after another. The high-powered equipment trapped the Russians. A true beast on the front line. It rages and never loses vigilance for a moment. The armed forces of Ukraine are convinced that with such a predator, any operation is destined for success. More details on how our forces are fighting on enemy territory in our upcoming report.
Saushka, don't get sick, Chernobyl exclusion zone. A Lancet flew here and it made this kind of dent. This is ours. We have to leave something from every direction. The Lancet flew here, it made this kind of dent, and that's it.
When was this?
At Kursk. We arrived there 2 weeks before the offensive. We were just getting familiar with what, where, and how. Then the offensive began. It was a very active front. At the beginning, we didn't have time to make even minimal shelter there right away. We approached the border, walked there, worked. We received a radio message saying, that's it, 3 kilometers ahead. We got in the vehicle 3 kilometers ahead. We took position, but didn't have time to dig even minimal shelter for the personnel to hide. We fired a bit, that's it, another 3 kilometers ahead. Well, it was a very active front at the beginning. This was probably mostly unexpected for them. Then a month passed. Probably right, guys. Somewhere around that. A month passed and we were relocated, shifted a bit from Sudza in a different direction towards Korenyova, in that direction. We arrived there and it started to get a bit hot. There, the enemy was doing quite a lot. Well, they had already gathered their troops.
They reinforced their forces and started pushing us back a bit, and that corridor kept narrowing. It turned out that we were being hit from both the back and the front. We didn't know where the attack might come from. From the front, from the back, and, well, we were shooting in that direction, but we were being hit from there and there from 3 sides, sort of. And they were coming in, both from the Kursk region and the Bryansk region. We would go in for 4 days, rotate, and we were changing positions almost every day. There were times when we took a position, settled in, got the order to leave, we left. And the next day there was no trace of the grove, nothing. Everything was completely leveled by grads. If we hadn't left, we would have been there.
It was a difficult direction. At the beginning it was easy, but in the middle it became very difficult. Very difficult.
How much did you have to work in a day?
Our vehicle didn't rest at all. It would have been good if the vehicle could stand for at least an hour to rest. Well, we were working and they couldn't keep up with delivering the ammo, roughly speaking. Oh! Shot! This vehicle went through everything, from A to Z. Crimea, it went through 300 in Zaporizhia, 300 in Kursk, and in Bakhmut, it was also a light 300.
They probably used remote mining. There were no mines there, This was just before the assault. Well, their airborne troops launched an assault, went through the plantation, and we had to retreat. The guys quickly loaded up, and on the road they came in, they drove out, and it exploded. They probably just planted a mine.
Well, but how did you retrieve it with her?
Oh, that's definitely a feat. Our battalion commander with the mechanic, with the technician. A vehicle with electronic warfare equipment was driving back and forth. They were also being shelled as they were retrieving it, and they were also hit by FPV drones and Lancets. Well,
both Lancets and FPV drones. The enemy was located 400 meters from the self-propelled artillery. So we took up defense there, started engaging, picking them off, and began to pull it out.
Right under our noses, a thing.
Yes. Well, then we were under small arms fire. RPGs were flying. Well, everything was flying while we pulled it out.
What did you use to pull it out?
There is such a heavy 55-ton machine. It's called Brem. Well, we conducted this operation, I think, for 2 or 3 days, but we pulled it out. Nothing terrible. We endured the FPVs, RPGs, ATGMs, and Lancets. We endured everything, survived everything, pulled everything out fine, precisely.
Where is it now?
There it is, standing.
Is that it?
Yes, there it is, standing. This side ran over, a mine. This side. The track was torn apart so much that we collected it piece by piece, just to analyze how it happened and what it was. This entire section, these 3 rollers were completely torn out, completely ripped out with roots like this. Pete, did you let the gunner come to me?
Right here, right now. Oh, They covered the armor, equipment, communication, and a party of infantry. And this is still far from the entire harvest gathered by the Ukrainian defenders. They strike accurately and without unnecessary words. The Russians don't even have time to blink before a new series of strikes hits. A super powerful elimination of the enemy live on air. The 3rd Assault Brigade works with precision. This selection of footage will definitely not leave you indifferent. That's all from me for now. I was with you, Darina Hutskalo. More intense news from the front in our next release. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and like. See you